Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hobson of PunchDrunkCritics.com. And on this week's show, as you can see from the background behind me, I'm going to be talking about The Northman, Robert Eggers' new film with Alexander Skarsgard, big Viking revenge movie, big action movie. Can't wait to talk about that. And we're also going to be talking about Michael Bay's latest film, Ambulance. And who better to do that with than my buddy, Chris Bumbray, JoeBlow.com. My boss on Real Action. So I mean, who else?
Well, and on the myriad of shows that
yeah.
I almost ran Last Dragon today, that you voiced, but it was I didn't run it because it seems like it's a slow day, and it was a really good episode, so I wanted to kind of save it for when it would kind of pop. But your voice though. I ran something that you voiced the other day. I'm sure I did. Pretty much every week, though, something. There's always something that you voiced during the week that runs. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I had somebody the other day talk about my silky smooth voice on these.
Yeah, and it was EJ, the guy who does the editing. He was like, "Hey, who's the great guy that did Big Trouble in Little China?" I was like, "That was me." And he's like, "Oh, your voice is so soothing." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Oh man! All right, let's start. Let's get going, man. Let's start with The Northman. Robert Eggers' new film, and we both saw this. You went out on you went to the set. Where was that at? Was that in London?
It wasn't the set. It wasn't the set, but it was cool. It was in London, England, and I posted I loved it. I gave the movie a rave, but then somebody was like throwing me a little shade, saying like, "Well, yeah, I guess why wouldn't you love it?" But it was about
considering. No, everybody always says that though. Like whenever we get invited to a set or something like that, they think that we're like obligated.
No, of course not. They don't care. I would give a movie, if I didn't like a movie, I would say straight up that I didn't like it. And I've said it. I mean, I've been around the block enough times, and so have you, that everybody knows how it works. But I truly loved it. But yeah, it was in London. We went to the Odeon, like Lancashire Square, where they do the royal premieres, which was the nicest theater I've ever seen. It was like plush leather seats that recline. I had wine while I was watching it, which was perfect. They were only giving it out before the movie, but I got like two of them, poured them in a cup, so I had this big glub of wine that I was drinking. Nice. And then it was but we did all kinds of like activities. We went axe throwing with Robert Eggers and Alexander Skarsgard.
That's awesome.
And we got more time than usual with them. Like they gave us, like, how usually these junket interviews are like 3-4 minutes, and we got like a solid 15 with both of them. So
nice.
So it was good. And it was, I mean, the visit was amazing. Skarsgard's a super nice guy. Can't throw an axe to save his life though, which is kind of shocking. But he's so tall, and I think he's too strong to throw them in some ways. And when I met him, he was like, when I interviewed him, he was like, "Hey man, axe throwing," and he's like, "That was hard, man." But I loved the movie. Yeah, I totally loved it.
The movie. Like I love the movie too, and I wasn't sure what to expect, honestly. I mean,
me neither. I mean, it's Robert Eggers. You never know. And I'm not like, I like Robert Eggers, but I'm not like worshipful of him like some people are. Like I thought The Witch was quite good, and I thought that The Lighthouse was quite good too.
I like The Lighthouse quite a bit better than I did The Witch. Now, and I like The Witch fine. I remember seeing it at Sundance, thinking, yeah, it's good, but not like it was this game-changing horror that it some people kind of heaped upon it. Like after it got released, I didn't see it that way.
I didn't see it as scary. I saw it as unsettling.
The Lighthouse was much more ballsy of a movie than The Witch was.
I had like 101-degree fever when I saw The Witch. It was when I was staying with you when we were both really sick. So I was like while I was watching it, and then it turned out it was just the movie.
But I feel like The Lighthouse was like the movie that like really showed me like the kind of he could be, like a really gutsy one that isn't afraid to get a little weird. That's the movie that for me that really established him as a filmmaker to keep an eye on. So
that was what I was thinking though with the Northman though, was like I was thinking like, is it going to be entertainment or is it going to be kind of just really weird? And when I went to CinemaCon last year, they showed us some footage from it, and I knew so I've known for a while that it was like a big movie. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to him a few times about it, because I guess I don't know that Joe. It's very anticipated on Joe Blow. Like our review was really popular, like I mean, I thought, and I wrote this in my review, that it was kind of the perfect melding of art house and on commerce and like the blockbuster genre.
I kind of said I thought it was his most accessible film.
Yeah, it is by far.
Yeah. for a movie
But
that
it
is
has the
very
elements.
brutal, very violent, and is a kind of in some ways a straightforward revenge movie, but it's so much more than that too. I was like,
Well, it's got the art to it. It's got like a certain, yeah.
it definitely has that sensibility. Like he's still, I think, an art house filmmaker, but it's like, but he's showing at least through this that he can also make what could be like his crossover movie. It could be.
Yeah, he goes right where I found a lot of guys that are like him have gone wrong, right? So I was just thinking like we did a what the fuck happened to Southland Tales a couple weeks ago.
You want to know what
And
happened? That movie's awful. That's what happened.
Yeah. But it was the same thing. It was the same thing where this director that was like an indie guy got like a lot more money. What did he make? He made a piece of shit, or he made something that was just really hard to get into. And it's the same thing that happened to the guy who did
he made a movie
It Follows.
Richard Kelly made a movie that only he would understand.
And it's the same thing that happened to the guy that did It Follows. Where these guys, these indie auteurs, obviously got.
Yeah. Who was that guy?
Who even remembers at this point?
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, Under the Silver Lake, David Robert Mitchell, I think. But Under the Silver
Lake, yeah.
They made these movies that were so niche and not accessible, yet they got a ton of money to do it. And when Eggers got it, though, he made a movie that people want to see, and that you can get into, and that has all the elements, but at the same time is probably the most, I would assume the most realistic Viking movie ever made. They had historians that were on like that were at the premiere, and they were saying, no, this is legitimately realistic, whereas the show Vikings is more kind of like a music video. They said this is kind of what, as far as anybody knows, this is probably the most realistic Viking movie that you could make. And
for those who don't know about the Northman, it's based on the Nordic legend of Amleth, and which a story that was very influential in Shakespeare's Hamlet. In case you don't know that, and it's basically about a boy who witnesses a tragedy within his own home and grows up later to get revenge on the person who did it. And that's really the point of it. But there's all sorts of Viking myth and legend and lore that gets mixed into this, which I thought, as someone who's a mythology geek, I found that stuff fascinating. I absolutely loved it. Only thing, if I had to complain about anything, is that I wish I could have gotten more Willem Dafoe, a little bit more Bjork, and even to some extent a little bit more Anya Taylor-Joy, even though her role is really great in this too.
I feel like there's another version out there though that's a little bit longer, and I hope that we do get it.
An extended cut.
Because even though it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think this is probably the best version.
I'm okay with 3. They want to give me 3, I'll take it.
I think he's smart releasing this one in theaters, though, this cut in theaters. I think it's accessible. And I think that if you're a geek for the movie like we were, maybe the deep dive version, bring it out next year and it's a half hour longer, kind of like what Ari Aster did with Midsommar. And I would totally go for it, and I think it would probably be amazing.
I want them to re-release this movie so bad later in the year with some added footage or something. I think that'd be great. I was trying to think of another Viking movie that I like that made me feel something, and the only one I could think of was Valhalla Rising.
Yeah, the one that Eggers kept mentioning was the Vikings with like Kirk Douglas and Tony Curtis from the 50s, which is of its era is pretty good. But it's not, they couldn't do what they do now. And I think Skarsgård, it's his his defining role for me, and it's a role that he wanted to play and that only he could play in some ways. And and it's very kind of
right? he's got kind of the bloodline for it. He should play it.
Sure. And his brother's on Vikings, and it's funny. The director said he was also very influenced by Conan the Barbarian, and you could feel that a lot in this movie, like quite a bit.
It's a great.
At first I wasn't crazy about Kidman in the role. Like, she was the only one that kind of didn't really fit in for me, but then it got better as it went on. But if I was to say like the one person in the cast that didn't 100% sell me, like I almost would have preferred like a Scandinavian actress.
Almost felt too big for this movie. Like,
yes.
Like, like you see Nicole Kidman, I think of a certain kind of thing. And I was like, she feels out of place because she's just so Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. I think she's a great actress, but I think that, they could have gone for like an unknown, actress from Scandinavia.
I would have liked to have seen like S.C. Davis or somebody play that role, or somebody else,
I think you're right. I think that might have been
Yeah.
It might have been better, but she was still good in it.
Still good. Especially as that role changes, because it becomes something very different than it starts out.
And I liked Claes Bang a lot.
I didn't recognize him until nearly the end. Like, I honestly didn't know that it was even him. I forgot that he was in the movie, and I forgot he was that damn big.
Yeah, that's why they cast him specifically, because he's like 6'5" or 6'6", and Skarsgård is about 6'3". I took a photo next to him. I'm 6'2", and he's a bit taller than me. But he was wearing a big hat, so I'm not under yet. But he was like, it was kind of you're taller than me, aren't you? You're like
a bit, yeah. I'm about 6'3". I'm a little bit taller.
Yeah. So you're probably about his height.
We've had that standoff before.
Yeah. You're probably. I know. I always kind of like, that's the obsessive thing when you're a tall guy. It's like, is he taller than me? Like, no respect. But it's like but anyway, it was kind of cool though. Like, Claes Bang is like 10 years older than Skarsgård. He's in his 50s, but guy got into shape for the part. And I was talking to Eggers, and he said that he really threw himself into the role, like really worked out just as much as Skarsgård did, and you can tell.
Yeah. Everybody.
But Anya Taylor good, and Anya Taylor-Joy is great too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like a compliment to her role in The Witch, but like a more like a good version in a way.
Yeah. And that's another role that becomes more significant than I think you think it's going to be in the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie is fantastic, and I liked Ethan Hawke in the time that we got with him. Yeah. What do you think of some of the? What do you think of some of the violence? Do you think the violence is going to be too over the top for people?
No, I think
a couple scenes that are like, whoa, okay.
I don't know. I feel like people are used to it now, though. We're kind of desensitized, I think. I mean, if you watch Game of Thrones was probably more violent than this movie in any given episode. We are so desensitized because of watching this stuff on HBO and on TV. I think it takes a lot in terms of violence to shock people, unless it's directed against. There's one scene that I think is going to probably shock people. It's kind of a scene that's lifted from this movie, Come and See, where it's the end of the Berserker raid. You probably know what I'm talking about. Like, I think that might shock people a bit, but I don't think like people getting their noses hacked off is going to do it that badly.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love the action design. I love the fight between him and the mountain from.
Oh yeah. That they're playing some sort of a sport at that point. Yeah.
And the guy, like Eggers told me, it translates as like ball stick or something like that. It's a real game. The whole point of it was just to beat the shit out of the guy you're against.
Basically, it's kind of like a rugby game where they're like, screw the scoring part. Let's just like beat.
Who even cares at a certain point?
Yeah, it's like whoever's standing like wins, basically.
Yeah.
No, I think the production design on this is fantastic. There's so much about it. The music is great. The score is amazing. There's so much about this movie that I like. That's why I really want them to re-release it.
Yeah, I want to see it again. It's almost too much to take in the first time.
Again on the 22nd for sure when it comes out.
Laura really wants to see it because she likes Skarsgård.
I have a friend who wants to see it for the very same reason. So.
Yeah, she likes the director a lot. Likes the director a lot too, though. She loved The Witch, and she calls our cat Philip, and she loved the Northman, not the Northman, the Lighthouse. So we're gonna go see it. I'm gonna take an edible to go see it. She's not going to because the score, the audio is going to scare the crap out of her. She's very sensitive to that kind of thing. Like I took her to see 2001 on IMAX.
Ooh. And
she said afterwards, she thought, she was white. She said it was the most terrifying movie she's ever seen in her life just because of the audio.
Wow.
And so she's going to be.
She sounds like a blast to go to the movies with.
She's going to be like the Northman is going to be a hallucinatory nightmare for her that she'll probably enjoy. But she's not going to take an edible like I will. Yeah. But I'm going to be like, hey, man, this movie's great.
Let's talk about another sensory experience, and that is Michael Bay's Ambulance.
I saw it last Sunday.
Yeah, look, I don't know about you. I have kind of missed a certain kind of Michael Bay movie. I watch the Transformers movies. Like, I hate them all. I'm the biggest Transformers movie person in the world. I have a Transformers tattoo on my arm. I love Transformers. Those movies aren't Transformers to me. I'm not going to go through that conversation. But they don't.
I agree with you, though. I agree. I didn't like any of them either. I kind of like the first one, but didn't like any of the others.
They don't feel like Michael Bay movies to me.
Yeah.
And I know they're big movies and there's a lot of action and stuff like that. But Michael Bay, that's not what I think of when I think of Michael Bay. Ambulance is more like what I think of when I think of Michael Bay. And even that movie he did for Netflix a couple years ago, I was like, This doesn't feel quite right either. This was more like my jam. It's
Me too.
just a like a 2 hour long chase movie, lots of guns, lots of action, lots of crashes, people with big personalities. Jake
Yeah,
Gyllenhaal hamming it up. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is fantastic. Eiza Gonzalez. This is more my speed. But
me
what did
too.
you think of Ambulance?
No, I loved it. I'd heard it was great. You know, when I was in London, all the journalists were all like, you know, like it's a pure Michael Bay movie, and if you like that kind of thing, you'll enjoy it. So as soon as I got back, I wanted to see it, and Laura wanted to see it too. She's a big Michael Bay fan too. So we went to see it last Sunday at this beautiful theater, and I loved it. I had a blast with it, like from beginning to end. You know, I mean, it was exactly the kind of movie I wanted. It was like an action movie from the year 2000, which I like. You know, and I miss those kinds of movies. You know, and I think it's pure Michael Bay. I think it's, for me, it's probably my favorite movie of his. I was thinking The Rock, maybe Bad Boys 2, because I do like Bad Boys 2 as well. I like the excess of it all. But you know, I loved Gyllenhaal having a great time. I really liked
Not The Island.
what?
Yeah, not The Island.
No. Although it's underrated.
Why do I feel like The Island is? I often feel like I'm the only person who actually kind of likes The Island.
It's underrated. But I liked Jake Gyllenhaal in this. Was having a blast. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is great too. Eiza Gonzalez, I think it's probably her best role to date. But I liked even Garrett Dillahunt. I thought was great. I liked Michael Bay's dog.
He's like Garrett Dillahunt's character. If those who know, he plays kind of like a special agent on like assigned to try and like take them down. But he's kind of like if Luc Besson made the movie, he's like the cowboy American cop guy.
I feel like he's playing Michael Bay in the movie, to be honest. Like that's because he even has Michael Bay's dog Nitro, you know, but like I love like kind of the episodic nature. I like, you know, they didn't have to bring in the Mexican mafia and have the big shootout, but I'm glad that they did, you know, because
if it's one of those movies that keeps getting more ridiculous and more ridiculous and more over the top, and by the time the Mexican gang comes in, you're just kind of like, all right, you know,
yeah, okay. I want to see a shootout. Yeah,
like okay,
I love it. You know, bring out the machine guns. They're holding these
heavily armed Mexican gang in history with like a full plan to take out the entire police force, like all set up and ready to go.
And then you got Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen just run around. It's slow-mo. And I love, you know, the slow-mo shots like at the end. And I like the part when they're listening to Christopher Cross sailing.
That was funny. I
love all that shit, you know, and I mean, I had such a good time with the movie. But what I kept thinking though, when I was watching it, is if it had been made 20 years ago, I feel like it would have been made slightly differently. It's interesting to see how things have changed since then. So I feel if it had been made 20 years ago, probably what the paramedic would have been the lead, and it probably would have been somebody like Nicolas Cage as the paramedic. I think the female role would have been the cop that's the guy's partner that wants revenge. That would have been the female role, and they would have like hooked up at some point. Probably at the end of the movie, they would have like walked off arm in arm, and Cage probably would have killed at least one of the two guys, and the two guys would have been evil. They wouldn't have been like somewhat likable. They would have been like psychos.
Yeah.
You know, but I kind of like that they didn't make it as simplistic as that though, because they're like likable bad guys. Well, I mean, yeah, Abdul-Mateen's character is pretty much like a true blue hero kind of guy, but
a lot of the
away for a while though.
He's the sympathetic one.
Yeah,
but he's not a good guy. You know, no. And most of the mistakes in the movie are his. So
he is kind of at the end,
like he makes mistake after mistake after mistake in this movie.
I mean, yeah, he has a heroic nature, I think, and I like
a bad guy with the heart of gold. We see that kind of thing, and Michael Bay loves that character.
Yeah. I think Michael Bay's favorite character is Jake Gyllenhaal, though. Like it's Gyllenhaal's movie to some extent, right? Just chewing the scenery, and
I kind of feel like he was like, okay, just go.
Yeah, and I love it, and I'm bummed that it's not doing super well financially, you know, because that is the kind of movie that I love, and I'd love to see, you know, studios make more of that. And I read something that kind of was crushing the other day when like people won't go see it because it looks like something that'll show up on their Netflix queue, and it's like, no, that kind of sensory overload, you really need a movie theater for it. And I was in a movie theater the other day because I had to go see Father Stew for work, and then they had
They
they
had
had warnings. They had warnings
one
up saying too
screening
much.
of that movie here.
Oh no, I missed it.
One screening a month ago.
Yeah,
And
I
so I
missed it.
skipped it thinking, well, there'll be other screenings closer to release. So, and then they didn't do another one. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm not seeing Father Stew.
I wouldn't have gone, but our site has like a Mel Gibson kind of like his stuff always does well for us, so I did have to go see it. But I paid to see it, and they had warning signs up over ambulance posters saying this, flashing lights and the drone cameras, and apparently like a lot of the old people that are going there were freaking out. But
How was Father Stew anyway?
I mean, whatever. I mean, it's designed for a specific audience. I don't know that I'm part of that audience. I respected it, and I thought it was okay. Yeah. I liked that it was R-rated, and that, I think that Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg both set like a career high in terms of F-bombs dropped in it, which I like.
That covers a lot of ground. That's pretty
The interesting thing is, even though it's Sony and even though it's technically faith-based, it's not Affirm, like their company. And I think it's because it's way too racy for that. Like it's not a born again religious movie. It's like a Catholic movie, I would say. Like a lapsed Catholic.
That Kurt Warner movie from a couple months ago. That's like, it's faith-based, but kind of sports thing, but
No, this is much more. That was a movie for born again Christians. I don't think this is aimed at born again Christians at all, or I don't think it's actually aimed at an evangelical market either. I think it's much more, I do find with the evangelical market, like it's very much like, oh, everybody, if you're not Christian, you're evil, like that kind of thing. And I like this one is much more like, it works for him, maybe it won't work for you, like that kind of thing, which I like. But it's fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the fact that it's made for a more specific audience. And like I feel like a lot of people are attacking it kind of sight unseen because they're presuming that it's right wing, which it's not necessarily if you watch the movie. It's tough. I think it's tough to win with those kinds of things critically anyway.
Yeah. They're aimed at a certain audience, and those audiences usually find those movies.
Which is fine. I mean, not everything has to be for everyone. Yeah.
It's fine, whatever. But going back to Ambulance, yeah.
Ambulance, however, is exactly aimed with the audience that we're in.
But going back to what you're saying, though, it is disappointing, though, that the movie's not doing better. And you were talking about how people think that it's kind of the kind of thing they can wait and see it at home. Terrible. It does have that background noise kind of look to it, like one of those movies that you'll put on while you're working on something else.
Yeah.
And I think one of the downfalls of streaming is that it's easy to label those movies like that and then just kind of let them be. And this that seems to be happening to this, which is disappointing because, like, I think you and I agree, this is one of the best things Bay has done in a long time.
I mean, it's funny. I was thinking of it the other day. If something like a lot of the action movies that we loved from when we were kids now would be streaming movies, or if they not made it all, like Speed.
Probably 80% of them.
Speed would be a Netflix movie, which is too bad because like something like that is a roller coaster ride to watch in the theaters. I mean, everything, even like True Lies and stuff like that would be almost like consigned to streaming. All these Eraser, you just did a thing on Eraser recently, and that would be probably a streaming movie as well. And most of the movies you cover in real action, Die Hard nowadays wouldn't be a big screen movie anymore. It'd be like a streaming film, and it wouldn't be as good because it would be done a lot cheaper. And I was actually impressed that Ambulance apparently had a pretty low budget, like 45 million.
Yeah, it was like $45-50 million. It's not that bad.
Which is pretty amazing if you look at the movie, because I would think it costs at least twice that. But I think it's Bay owns a lot of equipment, so probably saves money that way.
Yeah, and maybe things aren't quite as expensive as they used to be too. But
I think digital, it's not.
It might be easier and more cost effective to shoot some of the things that he shot in this movie.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is not getting $20 million to star in it. Like, there's no way.
Right. Which is funny. I mean, this kind of movie would have looked like it cost $200 million a while ago. It probably would have made $400 million a while ago. But
which is too bad though, because I mean, I miss those days, and I miss those kinds of movies, and
you think that gone? Like, you think that day is gone?
I do to some extent. I was looking at what's coming out, and the only movie I think that's coming out like that's really of that. There are a few movies that are coming out, and if they don't do well, I think it's going to really, really mess up the way these movies get made. So Ambulance was one of them. I think Top Gun Maverick is another, and then I think Bullet Train is probably another one too.
I'm
Those won't do well.
seriously concerned about Top Gun Maverick and how that's going to do.
Yeah, and then if and it's the same thing with Bullet Train. Bullet Train, I think, might do well because of the cast, but like it's just one of those things. If those movies don't perform, I feel like the days of like these big budget blockbusters, are kind of behind us, which is really too bad,
Yeah, and when I last looked at the schedule, it was like there really aren't that many like major studio releases theatrically anymore. Like not this year. There just aren't that many. I find myself going to the theaters for screenings like once a week. It's just not.
We used to go multiple times a week.
Right.
Remember,
sometimes we going 3-4 times a week. Now it's like one. And it's like just aren't that much. There's not very many things that come out theatrically anymore. So when movies like this don't hit, you feel like it takes a big blow out of the entire industry. Kind of sucks.
Yeah. And a guy like, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, I hope I haven't massacred his name, but he's like the thing about a guy like him is, I could have seen if this had come out 20 years ago and he had that role, people would be like, oh man, this guy's going to be like the next fucking Wesley Snipes or something like that. And he'd be getting tons of action movies. And now I feel like it's like in one ear out the other, like he's doing TV and stuff. And it's like, that's too bad. Cause like people would have been really excited about, and Gyllenhaal too would have given him like a big boost. And I feel like it hasn't really done much for him with this.
Yeah, it's funny. Gyllenhaal's kind of come out of both ends of this. Cause he had his blockbuster moment years ago where they tried to turn him into an A-list blockbuster star. And
it never worked.
Didn't really take. And now he's kind of coming onto this end of it now where it's like a lot of streaming stuff. And, he gets an occasional movie like this, but not that often. So he's kind of seeing both ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of rolling with it, and trying to, he's doing a movie with Guy Ritchie now, but that's going to be a streaming movie as well. I mean, I think a good example of, where the industry is headed is The Contractor went direct to VOD, and that would have been a theatrical movie a couple of years ago. Operation Fortune was taken off of the calendar. Yep. And and that would have been for sure a theatrical movie that would have made money, so and it's not even that the movies aren't making money. Like Wrath of Man made like over 100 million worldwide, for sure turned a profit. It's not enough of a profit,
Yep, totally agree. The times have changed, man.
It's big time, and it's too bad.
It's rough out there for us action movie fans who just want to see stuff like this blow up on the big screen, man. They just don't.
Well, and then we get like, we get stuff like the Liam Neeson movies, but they're so cheap now.
I just watched like literally about 20 minutes ago. I watched the one from Martin Campbell. Oh,
I have it in my box. I'm hoping that one's better than Blacklight. Oh, okay, never mind. I can see it in your face. I mean, Blacklight was terrible. Yeah.
Memory. I'm not going to say too much about it. I actually have to talk to Martin Campbell in about an hour. So about the movie. So I feel like
the Charles Bronson of our age, but those canon movies were at least fun though and had energy, and these don't.
We need a new canon.
Yes. I was thinking if you're going to go all in on streaming, I think what would be cool is if they reignited canon.
I find a benefactor or somebody and be the new canon.
Well, listen to this. Okay, so the thing is, Amazon owns MGM now, so they own Canon because that's the Canon catalog. I think that Amazon should start like a Canon label and just every like a couple like dumb B movie action films a year, like with stupid premises, like American Ninja is perfect, like just and get like movie stars to do it and say, oh, it's kind of fun, like I could see they remade American Ninja. Do a scene for scene remake with Channing Tatum in the Michael Dudikoff role. And I'm telling you, it would be great.
People will pay to see it. I mean, people will
people would pay to see it. And I mean, you could do like, something stupid, the Vengeful Cop of Vengeance or whatever, I could see Yahya Abdul-Mateen as the Vengeful Cop of Vengeance.
Yeah. Oh man. We need to talk to somebody at Amazon, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just do stupid, like fun. One of my favorite things is, on Saturday night, I go hiking on Saturdays. And I come home and I drink. And when I'm drunk at nighttime with Laura on Saturday, I like to put on a B movie, like a B action movie.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm running low now because I've burned through a lot of them. And I think they should start making more movies like that, you know, like they used to with the dumb Chuck Norris movies. And I mean, open it up, make it, you know, make it more diverse for sure. You know, there's a lot of people out there that could kick some ass. You know, you could put them in movies.
There are
You
more,
know,
yeah, there's so many screen martial artists out there that could do a great job. And a lot of people, and most actors nowadays are so athletic, they can pull it off even if they aren't.
oh, for sure. You just need
Right.
you just need good directors and creative writers and creative directors is what you need. And I feel like they don't really have that anymore.
You and I need to talk to somebody. We'll get on that. All right, man. This has been fantastic. Thank you, Chris Bumbray, JoeBlow.com, for joining me on Cinema Royale this week to talk to Northman and Ambulance, two big action movies. I had to bring him along for this. It was really good. Go ahead, man.
I'll have to touch base with you after CinemaCon because I'm going to be at the premiere for Top Gun.
I can't wait.
I'm seeing like 2 weeks from today.
You're not going to go see it at Cannes? You're not going to go to Cannes and see it?
I'm seeing it before Cannes. It's like a month.
Cannes see it again.
I'd love to. I'll go. If Tom wants to fly me over, I'll go.
You know, if you guys need somebody else to go with you, need somebody to hold the camera.
Yeah, Laura is coming.
I'll go.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope I don't lose too much money in Vegas. I made money last time, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to Vegas. All right, man, this has been fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been Cinema Royale. I'm Travis Hobson. You can find me every day at punchdrunkcritics.com, on Twitter at punchycritic, and at PDC Movies. Thanks again. This has been Cinema Royale. I will see you next time. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.